Hello, Ros Childs with ABC News. The Deputy Prime Minister, Barnaby Joyce, is preparing to address the media shortly as pressure builds on his leadership of the National Party. Mr Joyce has been hit with an accusation of sexual harassment, a claim he says is defamatory. From Canberra, his political reporter, Caitlin Gribben.
There's trouble on the Western Front for Barnaby Joyce.
Mr Joyce's position as federal leader is no longer tenable.
It's now clear that the state was the source of a formal complaint against the Deputy Prime Minister. The ABC understands it relates to an allegation of sexual harassment involving a woman from Western Australia and Mr Joyce. Mr Joyce says he's been made indirectly aware of the allegation, using a statement to describe it as spurious and defamatory. Allegations of wrongdoing should be immediately referred to police so that the veracity of any claim could be properly tested, a spokesman said.
Some very serious allegations have been made. There's been a formal complaint. It's appropriate that in relation to serious allegations of this nature, that they're properly investigated.
The ABC has been told the complainant is not a WA Nationals MP or staffer, but she holds a prominent role in the state's regions. The Federal Nationals says all complaints are taken seriously, kept confidential and given due process. On a separate matter, turmoil inside the Nationals has followed the Prime Minister to Washington. Backbencher Andrew Broad is the first of Barnaby Joyce's colleagues to publicly call on him to quit as leader. And Malcolm Turnbull's dodging questions about his deputy's future.
So you're not supporting him to remain your deputy?
No. Barnaby Joyce is the leader of the National Party of Australia. As leader of the National Party of Australia in a coalition government, he is my Deputy Prime Minister.
His cabinet colleagues are just as non-committal.
It's a matter for the National Party. I don't think we can be clear about that, guys.
I support him as a cabinet colleague, of course I do, and as a friend.
And as leader.
But it's not my job to tell the National Party who their leader should be.
Even Nationals aren't sure of that. Caitlin Gribben, ABC News, Canberra.
For more on this, National Affairs correspondent Greg Jennett is in our Parliament House Bureau. So, Greg, Mr Joyce is due to speak shortly, in just under an hour. Lots of speculation. What's the latest you're hearing?
Well, this is down to one man's call, Ros, and really, in its essence, it's a 50-50 call. It's stay or go. Now, in that environment, there are great perils of predictive journalism. Nevertheless, some people are going there with predictions that Barnaby Joyce is likely to resign. I must say, we've made contact with others considered close to the Nationals leader, suggesting to us that that will not be what happens when he stands up in Armidale, his present home base in the electorate of New England, remembering, of course, that Barnaby Joyce is meant to be on a week's leave. He stands up there and he makes statements to the media. Barnaby Joyce is already letting it be known that he thinks this latest set of allegations about his conduct is spurious and that it is defamatory at its heart. So if he is fighting on, I suspect that we will hear those words repeated, Ros, but despite the speculation, we are unable to confirm either way what the content of Mr Joyce's mind or his statement might be.
As we've seen, Greg, Malcolm Turnbull is in Washington with a large media pack. Are they dialed in on the Deputy PM's thinking?
Not at all, Ros. It's a measure of how closely held this is within Barnaby Joyce's own head, as I suggested a moment ago, and perhaps also a tight circle of friends and confidants in his office. By the way, one of our reporters here, Lucy Barber, is suggesting that Barnaby Joyce's Chief of Staff in the Canberra office here is going to hold a meeting with staff at 1:30. So they may be brought into the loop at that point. But going back to your question, Ros, across the other side of the Pacific, we do know that the Prime Minister, his staff and the travelling media have been gathered there. Our political editor, Andrew Probyn, was in that evening gathering, and no one on that side of the Pacific is the slightest bit aware of which way this might break when the Prime Minister stands up, when the Deputy Prime Minister stands up.
Which will be in just under an hour's time. We'll know what's on Barnaby Joyce's mind. Greg, thank you.
Thank you.